Hello, this is Crochet Basics with K.Jolie, and in this episode we're going to make this cute little owl. Super sweet. And just let me say that if you do not crochet and you don't have any hookers in your life or what have you, and you do want to purchase, I do have a finished product on my eBay and my Etsy's. There'll be links down below if you're interested in purchasing finished items. Okay? So for us hookers, let's get this going. For this one, you'll need acrylic yarn, worsted weight, which is size 4 medium, a G-hook, stuffing, a yarn needle, a bunch of stitch markers, a smaller hook, an E-size hook, which is, I think it's a 3.75 millimeter, but don't quote me on that. I'll put it on the page and you'll have it. And some safety eyes, stuffing, if I didn't say that already, yarn needle, stuffing, scissor. You don't really need a tape measure for this one. There's not really any measuring or any kind of thing. So with all of that being said, let's get this cute little owl going here. Let's get her underway. Starting in the color that you're going to use for the bottom of the owl, you're going to use your G-hook and loosely make your first loop loose. Okay, you'll chain 2, 1, 2, and in that first loop you'll crochet 10 half double crochets, and you'll hold your tail close to your work so that you don't have to weave in anything later on. You just want to make sure that your stitches are nice and tight, and that's why we're using very thick yarn and a small hook, so that the stitches are nice and tight. It'll hold all of our stuffing in place. So you'll pull your tail, which will close up your loop. You'll skip over your first chain, and we're going to do 2 half double crochets in every stitch around. So after you do your first half double crochet, let's add in a stitch marker so that we can keep our place. So the one before the one you just did is what you're going to mark. So 2 in each one. This is an increase row, and hopefully you end up with 20. With the next row, it's another increase row. So in the first one, you'll do 2 half double crochets, and then 1 in the next, and then 2 in the next after that. So you should have 30 after this row. And row 4, we're going to do 2 half double crochets in the first, that's there, and then 1 half double crochet in the next 2 stitches, and then 2 in the next one after that, and then you'll just repeat. So we're at the end of row 4, and you should have approximately 40 stitches. Hopefully you have 40. I have 40, I counted, and you should be following your stitch marker to see where your increases are and all that kind of thing. Okay, so in row 5 we're just going to do 1 half double crochet in each. So at this point for row 5, if you've lost track and you're not, counting so much or what have you, you can add another stitch marker in. It's, it's always good to keep track and all that kind of good stuff like that. So I'm going to add a stitch marker in, and 1 half double crochet in each. Row 5 is not an increase row. So in row 6, you're going to do 2 half double crochets in the first, and then 1 half double crochet in the next 3 stitches. And you'll repeat that all the way around. So here we are, row 6 was our last increase row, and we follow our stitch markers up. So from here up, from row 7 to 10, there's no increase. We're just going to work in the round and keep going. So 1 half double crochet in each, and if you want to add a stitch marker or move one of your stitch markers just so that you can keep track, you can also use your tail and just put it in between your last row to your new row and crochet right around it and just leave it there until you're ready to weave in or you have your length. So from row 7 to row 10, no more increases, just 1/2 double crochet all the way around. So this is where we're at, and we have 10 rows worked in 1/2 double crochet, and 5 rows were increase, 5 rows just worked in the round, not necessarily in that order, but we have our bottom half made. Okay, so we're getting there. So at this point, let's put the bottom aside and let's make our eye rounds so that they're ready to go when we are. So for mine, I'm going to use, I think it's called Heather. We're going to chain 3, still in our G hook, in our 3rd chain from the hook. We're going to double crochet 12 double crochets. So you'll pull your tail tight and you'll slip stitch into the chain, the top of the first chains that you made. Pull a loop. Okay. Now pull a long tail for sewing, and that's on both of them. You're going to pull a long tail for sewing and snip off and put it aside. Make sure you make 2 of these. Now we have our 2 eye rounds for later on. We're going to attach them, and let's make our wings. We're going to chain 6, and in the 2nd chain from the hook, okay, we're going to skip over the first one and we'll do a single crochet in each and 2 in the last, and then we're going to work the bottom stitches. So you get 2 in the end, and then we're turning to the bottom of our stitches, and we're going to go in and we'll work those also. So it should be an oval, you know, at this point, and we'll add in a stitch marker and then we'll work back around. So we'll keep working in the round, but not a cylinder, not a circle. So let's add a stitch marker so that we can always keep our place, because we like that. So you'll shape as you go, like pushing it down, because it'll want to fold this way. It'll want to fold in, but you don't want that. You want your the right side, the stitches that face you as you make them, you want that to be facing you. So you'll fold it over in half as you're working, just for the beginning, and then it'll do it on its own. So this is our first wing, and it's 8 rows, and I counted 11 around. So you'll pull a tail for sewing, and you'll snip off, and you'll make your second wing. So just to show you, I got both of my wings made, okay? And since the wings aren't stuffed, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier or not, but we're not stuffing our wings. So you measure them, make sure, before you snip off, just make sure, just a side note, make sure that they look exactly the same size, what have you. So perfect. And we'll put them aside, and let's finish off our body at this point. And we're using the same color as we did for the wings for the top of the body, the head. Let's do this. You would attach in your last stitch here, grab your body, your bottom half of your body, and this is all done in the G hook, same size, just in case you missed that. Okay, so we're doing a color change. So you would go in through your new stitch, pull up a loop, same color, and for the last loop for a single crochet, all right, you would pull through. Now the top part we're doing in a single crochet, the bottom part was a half double crochet. So from here we'll pull all our strings nice and tight, nice and snug, and we'll start working in the new color for the head, the top part of our owl. Sorry, I know I have a terrible New York accent. Some people have a great New York accent. I am not so lucky. So you'll do one single crochet all the way around. If you don't really need to add a stitch marker, but you know, if you want to, just to keep count, like, you know, as far as height, but you know, as far as stitches, there's no more increase or any kind of thing, so there's no need to add a stitch marker as far as that is concerned. So you'll work in the round, and we'll do 5 rows in the new color to get the head started. But don't snip off or anything, because we're not going to be done with that. We're just going to do 5 rows, and then we're going to start adding in our beak and our eyes, and we'll go from there. At this point, I am 5 rows in single crochet with my head color, the top part of my owl, and I'm going to do 2 more rows. I want to do 7 rows total. But don't snip off, we're not done. We're gonna do 2 more rows of single crochet around, and I'll show you how to attach your eyes, and we'll work out the beak. I'm sorry, I hope you forgive me. It's allergy season, and I sure am suffering over here. Now I'm at row 7. And I want to attach our eyes. We're going to attach our eyes at this row. Okay? So you'll see the seam. Now this seam is not a back seam. It's actually a side seam. So our eyes, here's our seam, and our stitch markers and such. And at this point, our eyes are going on the side, on the front. And this becomes a side seam, not a back seam. So that's a side note, or, you know, pay attention to that. Okay, so we're not going to cut off our yarn yet, because we're not done with our body, our head. And I'm going with these blue eyes that I have here. I think my label fell off, so I think they're 12mm safety eyes, and they're cute, blue. I haven't used them before. So you'll take your eye ring and you'll push through the center. Okay, so that's what that'll look like, and you'll put them in. So you'll count. Here's your starting row here where the lighter color attaches. I did mine in blue, so I don't know what color you're doing yours in, but here's where they are, and you'll count 1, 2, 3, and in between the 3rd and 4th row, right where the bottom of your eye round meets your second color there, you'll push it through. And I didn't put the back on just yet, I'm just showing you. You'll push it through, and you'll space them out. So you'll follow your row across, and you'll space them out a bit, and you'll push through your second one. So I didn't put the back in just yet. I'll show you how I do that. And so you just want to make sure, you know, not too far apart, not too close together. Not bad so far, looking pretty good. So you'll push through, and because it's 2 layers of crochet, it's very thick, and it's hard. And to get the backs of the safety eyes on, get your eyes where you want them. And I use a either a pair of pliers or an adjustable screwdriver. It adjusts, the head adjusts to a Phillip or a flathead. Okay, so I'll just make sure that it'll go through the back of it. Push my piece in place. So if you have the strength in your hands to get that on, but because it's 2 layers of crochet, it's very hard for me. You know, it's so thick to get through. Okay, so I like to use my handy dandy adjustable screwdriver and a little hammer. Little hammer action. So you just want to make sure that all of the edges caught all the way around the first, I guess we'll call it a lip. The first lip, the first part of your safety eye. So just to show you, you know, there's several ridges, and as long as it catches and you know that it's nice and tight and snug, it's not going anywhere. It's not going to push out through the front. It's not going to come out from the back. It's snug all the way around. It's totally caught and all of that. You know, safety first, because, you know, they're safety eyes. Okay? Super important if you're using safety eyes. After your eyes are in place, your safety eyes, then you're going to use the long tail that you left to thread a yarn needle and sew them on all the way around. And you're going to sew as close to the edge as possible for your little eye rounds. And once you have both of your eyes in place, and you'll see, you know, as you're sewing them on, you know, you'll see the placement. So if this eye seems a little bit bigger, then you'll stretch this one a little bit as far as the sewing it on. With the eyes, I like to use a tapestry needle, just to throw that out there, because it has less flex, because it's, you know, metal. So you'll get a better placement, I think, you know, as far as I'm concerned. And I've been sewing eyes on owls for over 4 years now. But you'll go through back and forth, trying to catch every stitch that you made, so that it's nice and tight. And look at that. Of course, I caught my working yarn. So going back and forth, trying to make sure that you catch all of your edges here, and you don't catch your working yarn, the yarn for the rest of the head. But go slow with the sewing on, because you want to make sure that you're catching all of your edges. This is actually one of 3 owl patterns that I make. Owls are very popular with me, I must say. So, but if this one, you know, if this tutorial goes over well, then maybe I'll show another owl pattern a little later on. So when you get to the end of your, you know, sewing on, okay, just, you know, you want to run your nail or your finger just to make sure that it's caught all the way around. You've sewed it on all the way before you move on to your next dot.